Private member statements. Are there any private member statements? I call the member for Maitland.
I remember in my days of being a tour director on coaches, we used to find stories to tell about specific areas along the way. Being based in Walcha in New England at that time, we visited Guyra a lot, and one of those stories was the story of Stephen Walls. For 4 days and 3 nights in February 1960, Stephen Walls was lost in the rugged New England ranges near Guyra. He was a small 4-year-old farm boy. He became immortalised forever as a little boy lost, made famous by the 1960s singer John Ashcroft. It's such a close-knit community in the New England that I remember telling this story one day on the coach and finding that his sister Julie was travelling with us. She said that Stephen was a very shy boy. He'd been raised on a farm with his father and mother and was very, very shy of people. In fact, at the point of time that he was lost, he'd probably only met about 7 people in his life. He was helping his dad look after some sheep on the property and went to find a lamb which had been separated from the rest of the flock. He kept walking after it and eventually got so far away from his father that he couldn't see him anymore. As an intelligent, bright, young country lad, he knew that if he got lost, the best thing he could do was follow the fence back to the farmhouse. He also knew how to shelter himself and find some water. Unfortunately for Stephen and for his mum and dad, he was heading in the wrong direction, further away from the homestead along that line. He walked, and when he heard things that scared him, he hid from them. In those days, the community in Australia was small, but they mobilised behind this family. Men and women were called out of pubs, out of laundries, out of their homes, even stopped on the New England highway as they drove by to help in the search. You can imagine how some of those blokes coming out of the pub to find this little lost boy were so loud and scary and frightening. In all, 5,000 people and 7 aircraft searched for Stephen Walls, and most importantly, an Aboriginal tracker named William Stanley. He started to realise by tracking through for Stephen Walls that he was actually going further away from the noise, that he was hiding from the searchers. Eventually, and luckily for him and his family, he was found. And I think it's important to know as well that even though the song that was written about this eventually by Johnny Ashcroft went on to become a top 40 seller because of the community spirit that had been raised on it, it was actually withdrawn by Johnny Ashcroft shortly afterwards when the Sydney schoolboy Graham Thorne became Australia's first kidnapped victim and was later found murdered. I think it's important to tell this story again because today we heard in this place about William Tyrrell, who was only 3 years old when he disappeared on the 12th of September last year. And the New South Wales police still believe he was abducted and he might still be alive. Today I met William's mother and I heard speeches by the Deputy Premier and the member for Strathfield, and I have to say it was the most heart-wrenching experience to hear those speeches both in this place and in the Jubilee Room. As a young mother of my own little 3-year-old boy, when I used to tell this story, I can remember that it used to catch in my throat, imagining the fear and terror of a mother who had lost her boy for 4 days. I cannot imagine having lost my boy for 4 seasons. I hope that the community continues to rally around mothers in situations like this, just as they have. And we saw that this weekend with thousands of people walking as part of the Where's William campaign launch. Not only that, I saw online that 300 calls had been received by the police in their search to find William. The Where's William campaign was launched to provide the community with more information about little William Tyrrell's disappearance with the aim of finding him and bringing him home to his family where he belongs. We may not go and stop cars on the road in our search to find people, but in the information superhighway, on Facebook, on the internet, there's perhaps a chance that someone out there knows something that can help find this little boy. I urge all people in our community to help find William, but most importantly to keep up their hopes. As my own little boy is now 15 years old and I have spent so many years of joy with him, my heart goes out to the Tyrrells and I hope that their search comes to a good conclusion soon. Thank you.